You know that feeling, right? The buzzing anticipation when you see that delivery truck pull up, the absolute thrill of unboxing a new gadget, or that perfect pair of shoes you've been eyeing. For a minute, it feels amazing. But then, what happens a week later? Yeah, the excitement's kind of faded, and you're already scrolling, looking for that next thing. Well, this whole cycle, it actually has a name, the hedonic treadmill. And today, we're going to get into why more just never seems to feel like enough.
It's a weird paradox, isn't it? The dream of owning something is often so much more satisfying than the reality of actually having it. I mean, that rush you get from the chase, the planning, the click to buy, it's powerful stuff. But once the object is finally yours, a lot of that magic just evaporates. So what's going on here? Is this just some personal flaw? Or is it a built-in feature of how our brains and even our society are wired?
All right, let's dive into this. And we're going to start with the hardware we're all born with, our own brain. See, the first piece of this puzzle isn't about fancy ads or keeping up with the Joneses. It's about the very basic way our minds process happiness and new stuff. It turns out, the goalposts for what makes us feel satisfied are always moving.
And this is where a concept from social psychologist David Myers is just so helpful. He called it the adaptation level phenomenon. Basically, it means our minds are constantly creating a neutral baseline based on everything we've experienced before. Think about getting into a hot bath. At first, it feels almost too hot, right? But after a minute, it just feels normal. Well, our brains do the exact same thing with money, with possessions, with all of it. And this right here is the absolute core of the treadmill. That first big promotion you got, it felt incredible. A year later, though, it's just your salary. That brand new smartphone was a piece of future tech in your hands. Now, it's just the thing you use to check your email. Our amazing ability to adapt means that yesterday's luxury very quickly becomes today's new normal. And what used to feel normal now feels like we're missing something. This feeling of constant dissatisfaction, it's not some new modern problem. This ancient question, which Myers actually highlighted in his work, shows that people have been wrestling with this exact thing for thousands of years. But while our internal psychology definitely sets the stage, our modern world has built a massive, elaborate theater right on top of it. So now let's look at the external forces, because our brains don't operate in a vacuum, right? The sociologist Jean Baudrillard had this fascinating idea that our entire consumer society is basically built to exploit that adaptive impulse we just talked about. We're not just out there buying things. We are actively participating in a really complex social system.
Okay, so here's the crucial insight. Baudrillard argued we're not really consuming objects for what they do, but for what they signify. That new electric car isn't just a way to get from A to B, it's a sign that you're eco-conscious. That fancy watch isn't just for telling time, it's a sign of success. We are essentially speaking a language of status and identity through the stuff we buy.
This quote just cuts right to the heart of it all. The actual use value of an object has been totally overshadowed by its sign value. It's become way less about what an object does and way more about what it says about you in relation to everybody else. And, well, that's a completely different game with totally different rules.
This chart makes that distinction so clear. See, a need for utility, like, say, needing a warm coat for winter, it has an endpoint. You buy the coat, you're warm, the need is met. Done. But the desire for a sign, for status, is defined by difference. It's a relative game. And because there will always be a newer, more exclusive sign to chase, this game has no finish line. It is, by its very design, completely insatiable. So, what happens when you combine our brain's natural tendency to adapt with a social system that's based on an infinite supply of status signs? Well, you get a perfect storm. You get a vicious cycle that is incredibly difficult to step out of because it's being fueled by both our internal psychology and the external world we all live in. Let's just walk through it real quick. Step 1, a new sign of difference appears. The latest phone, that trendy brand, we want it. Step 2, we buy it, and we get that little temporary emotional high. But then 2 things happen at once. Internally, our brain adapts. The cool new thing just becomes our phone. And externally, as more and more people get one, it loses its power as a status symbol. So then the system just offers up a new sign, and the chase starts all over again. Baudrillard had this absolutely stunning phrase for this condition: luxurious and spectacular penury. Penury means poverty.
He's suggesting that even when we're surrounded by immense wealth and an abundance of things, we're living in this constant state of feeling like we don't have enough. Because that need for social difference can never really be satisfied, we are, paradoxically, being made poor by our own wealth.
And make no mistake, this isn't just some niche economic activity. According to Baudrillard, this is the central organizing principle of our entire culture. The drive to consume, and at the same time the anxiety and guilt we feel about it, that has become the moral and psychological axis that our modern lives revolve around. So, is there a way off this treadmill? I mean, if both our brains and our society are pushing us to keep running, are we just doomed to this endless chase? Well, not necessarily. The solution isn't to just reject everything, but to consciously decide to play a different game entirely. The escape route really involves a fundamental shift in where we put our focus. So instead of acquiring external signs, we can focus on collecting internal experiences. Instead of playing that endless game of social comparison, we can pursue skills and relationships. See, unlike objects, experiences actually become a part of who we are. They don't wear out. They're much less susceptible to that adaptation effect, and their value isn't based on what everyone else has. It's a shift from consuming to actually living. And that really leaves us with one last thought to chew on. Maybe the path to genuine, lasting satisfaction isn't found by adding more and more to our collection of things, but by enriching the collection of memories, skills, and relationships that actually make us who we are. What if the real goal isn't to have more, but to be more?